The Sega Dreamcast is the final system that Sega released, and boy was it awesome. The Dreamcast has tons of great games, and since it's the spooky season on the Big Retro Show, I'm going to talk about some of the best horror games for the Sega Dreamcast. The 80s and 90s were great times to be a kid. Join me as I dive into the world of movies, music, video games and toys, and explore what made these decades so great. This is the Big Retro Show. Capcom ported 3 of its Resident Evil games onto the Dreamcast, and one of my favorites is Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Released on the Dreamcast in 1999, Nemesis has all of the things that most Resident Evil games share. There's the staple ammo conservation, the finding of items to access different areas of the game, and of course, the killing of zombies and other monsters. Nemesis places you in the role of Jill Valentine and takes place in good old Raccoon City, 24 hours before everything that happened in Resident Evil 2. You must escape the zombie-infested city and make your way to the Raccoon City Police Department, where you first encounter the main antagonist of the game, the Nemesis, who is sort of like the Rambo of the zombies. At any rate, this game is chock full of weapons you can use against your enemies, but as with most Resident Evil games, you must not only use your ammo wisely, but know what weapon works best for any given situation. The game features tank controls, but playing them with the Dreamcast controllers felt good. When you get bored of this game's single-player campaign, you can take on the Mercenaries mode, which is awesome. If you happen to miss this game on the PS1, you will definitely want to bust this one out and give it a go this month. The Dreamcast had quite a few survival horror games, and Blue Stinger is one of the best on the system. Released in 1999, Blue Stinger was exclusive to the Dreamcast. Blue Stinger ditches the tank controls and pre-rendered backgrounds we saw in Resident Evil, and traded them for 3D graphics and a third-person viewpoint. You play as a scrappy dude named Elliot, who is just chilling on his friend's boat and doing a little fishing off the coast of Dinosaur Island, when a meteor crashes into the nearby island, creating a barrier that traps you inside. A group of monsters attack the boat, and you are brought to shore by your pal's good luck charm, called the Nephilim. Anyhow, you are now on Dinosaur Island and must take on the island and the monsters who have taken control of it. You are joined by this Bluto-looking dude named Dog, and throughout your playthrough, you can switch between the two.
What a joke.
I played most of the game as Elliot though, because Dog is too slow and I like to play these type of games at a high speed. The island is infested with these crazy looking monsters, and you can use numerous weapons to kill them. Your character can do melee attacks and weapon based attacks, and this is one thing that separates this game from Resident Evil. Sure, you can use a knife in Resident Evil, but it's not as powerful as the attacks you can use in this game. The other thing is that when monsters die, they remind me of a slot machine spewing out coins. You can use the coins to purchase weapons, food, and other items such as shirts that let you do karate and be a wrestler. The item prices, and especially the way that the monsters respawn when you leave an area and re-enter it, make farming a must in this game, and this is one aspect that I really did not enjoy. The monsters themselves aren't really difficult to kill, but it's still a chore trying to raise enough funds to buy the things that you want and need. The dialogue and voice acting in this game are not good, but it didn't get in the way of my enjoyment of the game.
Do you have the card key to the freezer warehouse?
Who are you? He's Dogs Bauer, captain of the SS Deanna. We're...
No time for explanation.
The game has a lot of tasks you must complete, such as finding keys and cards that are needed to access the different areas. The camera in this game can be really wonky at times. The game automatically controls it, which is the big reason for this. The game could have really benefited from allowing you to control it on your own. Still, I had a lot of fun with this game, and it's definitely worthy of some playtime during the spooky season. Have you ever played this game?
Her skill is A+.
For a little beat-em-up action, why not play some Nightmare Creatures 2? This game is definitely one that will keep you in the Halloween mood simply because of its setting and weird protagonist. Released in 2000, Nightmare Creatures 2 is a sequel to the original Nightmare Creatures that was released on the PS1 back in 1997. You play as Herbert Wallace, who is a patient at the sorcerer Adam Crowley's genetics hospital. Crowley, if you recall, was a villain in the first Nightmare Creatures. Well, he's back and up to no good, and it's your mission to stop him from achieving immortality and taking over the world. This game is totally creepy, due in large part to the protagonist. He is deeply disturbed and grotesque to look at. He looks like a zombie himself. Speaking of grotesque, so are the enemies you will be fighting in this game. You will be fighting through the game's levels all the while collecting different items that will assist you in your quests, such as keys and bolt cutters, to help you advance. The game also lets you collect blood packets to replenish your health and other power-ups. You spend a lot of the game in exploration mode, which assigns your buttons different functions. But all bets are off when you see an enemy and the game kicks you into combat mode. It happens automatically and you can't run away from the battles. Needless to say, it's a bit clunky. In fact, most of this game is clunky, yet it has some charm. You can do combos with your melee attacks and pull off fatalities. The graphics, music, and sounds of this game make for a brooding, moody experience and one that fits perfectly with Halloween. The music was created by Rob Zombie. I love me some House of the Dead, and House of the Dead 2 is a must-play on the Dreamcast. Of course, this is a sequel to the Sega rail shooter House of the Dead, and is considered one of the best light gun rail games both in the arcades and on the console. The premise of this game is really quite simple. You play as a special agent who must find out what happened to his fellow agent named G. The game is a port of the arcade game of the same name and plays great on the Sega Dreamcast. One button fires your gun, the other reloads. It's really quite simple, but it's fun nonetheless. Along the way, you will be blowing up zombies and other monsters to progress the story. The bosses in this game are a lot of fun to fight, each having their weak spot and attacking you with different weapons. The zombies in this game are fun to kill as well, especially with headshots. No House of the Dead game would be complete without pesky civilians getting in the way and asking to be saved. If you are trying to go for a high score, then you will save all of them. But if you are like me and shoot everything that moves, then you won't bother. Anyhow, the game has different power-ups you can shoot to give you the edge, and you will need them, because this game is difficult. Of course, taking on this game with a friend makes it a lot more easy and fun. The game really shows off how well the Dreamcast plays arcade games, with near arcade perfect music, graphics, and sound. The voice acting in both the arcade and home console port remains pure cheese.
This is a present from me to you.
But hey, it doesn't get in the way of the fun. House of the Dead 2 fits great with the Halloween motif and is just dying to be played during the spooky season. Before I get into the last game, let's take a quick look at some other horror games on the Sega Dreamcast.
This place is finished. I don't know, it might have been a special forces team. But in any case, this prison...
Hey, Nettie's told me that they're bloody powerful, well nigh indestructible, and shouldn't fall into the wrong hands.
Any idea where they might be?
What am I, a Dark Soul travel guide?
I spoke of Zombie Revenge in my great arcade horror games to play for Halloween episode, and the Dreamcast port is every bit as good. Aside from the regular arcade game, the Dreamcast version lets you play a one-on-one fighting game and lets you play the console version of the game that it calls the original mode, which lets you play the game normally, in gun mode, which makes your gun power significantly stronger but nerfs your resistance to damage and the strength of your punches and kicks, or bare knuckle mode, which boosts your hand-to-hand combat but does not allow you to use your gun. At its core, Zombie Revenge is a hybrid run-and-gun and beat-em-up that is a spin-off from Sega's great House of the Dead series. What makes this game so much fun is its combat, graphics, sounds, and storytelling. You play as one of 3 agents who must investigate what happened with the government's undead soldier program. There's the even-keeled Stick Brightling, the tank Rikia Bufujima, and the gun specialist Linda Rota. Each of them are fun to play and have their strengths and weaknesses. My favorite is Linda because her gun is so powerful. The game has tons of weapons for you to use and find, and each are fun to use against the hordes of zombies you will be taking out. The enemies and bosses in this game are memorable to fight against, and you will have a lot of fun playing this game, especially with a friend. You can't really go wrong with this game for a Halloween playthrough. And that's going to be it for this episode of The Big Retro Show. If you enjoyed this episode, give this video a like and consider subscribing to The Big Retro Show.